Okay, we're up to the Mishnah on Daf Pei Hey Amid Days, and yesterday when we began the parak, we saw that the first Taisa said that this parak is basically a review. So this din that we're going to see in the Mishnah also is a review. We saw earlier in the Masechta that the following halachas that Bas Yisrael mu reses the kohen. Now a kohen, if the Bas Yisrael marries the kohen, after marriage she can go ahead she can go ahead and eat truma, but if she's engaged, not. We're worried that maybe she's going to bring it home to a house, or simple he'll find something wrong with her. I mean, so Bas Yisrael mu reses the kohen mi'u beres if she's pregnant, right? If she's pregnant, we said an uba cannot go ahead and the husband dies. So an uba can't go ahead and feed, right? Mekayin shemeres yavam mekayin. She dies. So those halachas, all those cases, you won't eat truma. Bas kohen Yisrael. This is regarding bas kohen of not being able to eat. If she's married to Yisrael, all these cases when I eat truma. Bas Yisrael mureses l'Levi. Now Levi eats ma'aser rishon, guys. Levi gets ma'aser rishon, and this mystery is going to tell us a bit of a chiddush. Bas Yisrael mureses l'Levi. She's not mikudeshes. If she's mikudeshes, there's no nisuin. Mu'beres miLevi, she's pregnant from a Levi. Shemeres Yavam LeLevi, she was married to a Levi, consequently dies and she falls to Yibum. V'chein bas Levi liYisrael lo'ysoichel b'maisa. They won't eat maisa. Now the Gemara is going to ask an obvious question. The din of truma can be eaten only by a kohen, but maisa rishon can be eaten by a zar, a non-kohen. Yet over here it's mashmikal eaten by a Levi. So we're going to see that our Mishnah goes according to the opinion of Reb Meir, that Ma'aser Rishon can only be eaten by the Levi. In other words, we're going to treat Ma'aser Rishon vis-a-vis the Levi as we do Truma vis-a-vis the Kohen. Because in general, anyone sitting at this table could eat Ma'aser Rishon.
So why we don't give a Ma'aser today? Is that the reason why? And then we could eat it? In Eretz Yisrael?
Well, first of all, Truma we don't give to a Kohen because you have to prove you're a Kohen. I guess Levi could say the same thing. Prove you're a Levi. I mean, how do we know you're a Levi?
But that's why you could eat the
Ma'aser. Yeah. Baslev mi reses the kohen, mu beres mi kohen, shemeres yavam the kohen. So this is a double. She's a Levi and she's married to a kohen. She's right. So now we're going to see the halacha. Bas kohen levi leisoichel levi truma levi ma'isa. You can eat either one. You can eat truma als the kohen als the ma'isa, right? So says the Gemara for the zara. Zara miyachla truma, the last case, right? The case where she's a bas kohen, bas kohen married to Yisrael, or it doesn't make or a Levi, or bas Levi. What's she eats? Zara miyachla ma'isa. Zara eats ma'isa. When it says Zara lo yachla kodesh, guys, kodesh means truma. It doesn't mean ma'isa. It doesn't mean ma'isa. So why should she not be able to eat ma'isa? Says the Gemara, Hamani Remei Amar Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. Who's the Tana of our Mishnah? Tana of our Mishnah is Reb Meir. The Omar Ma'aser Rishon Asel Zarim, who's of the opinion that Ma'aser Rishon would be Asel Zarim. Ma'aser Rishon would be Asel Zarim. A Zar would not be able to eat Ma'aser Rishon. So we'll treat Ma'aser Rishon to a Levi the same way we'll treat Wat Kohen to a Truma to a Kohen. The Tanya Truma l'Kohen or Ma'aser Rishon l'Levi. Truma is given to the Kohen, and Ma'aser Rishon is given to the Levi. Divrei Reb Meir, these are Reb Meir. Now, says Rashi, the top Rashi, Truma l'Kohen, Nisinasa l'Kohen, u'Ma'aser Rishon l'Levi, and Ketani Ma'aser Levi, Ma'aser l'Levi, dum yid the Truma l'Kohen. Ma Truma achilasa k'nisinasa, just like the achil of Truma is like the nisin of Truma l'Kohen, v'loy l'zar. Af Ma'aser Levi, achilasa l'Levi, v'loy l'zar. So that's how you know. So we're going to treat it the same way. The ilav hachi says the ilav hachi srila le'meya shuma l'ma'ikatani. Why are you learning? Why are you learning? He the ma'aser tzricha le'la lo yavina le'la kohen krem lezin desire truma lamali. In other words, why in the world would you list truma if you're not coming to tell me a relationship between truma and ma'isa? Why in the world would you list truma? Ella must be to make the comparison between ma'isa and truma. Lenny, we're up to Pei Vav Amid Aleph. We're up to the top line. We're saying that Reb Rabbi Meir, he treats Maisa Rishon the same way Truma. Just as Truma can only be given to a Kohen and only eaten by a Kohen, so to Maisa Rishon can only be given to a Levi and eaten by a Levi. We paskin that no, we paskin that a Zor, even a non-Kohen or non-Levi can eat it. But the opinion of Rabbi Meir is that they're the same. The opinion of Rabbi Meir that's the same. He's never on time. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah matiru l'kohen, right? Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah permitted Maisa Rishon to the kohen. No one asks Maisa Rishon to the kohen. You can even give your Maisa Rishon to the kohen. You don't have to give it to the Levi. So again, this is just the process of Trumas Maisa. I always go over it. I should go over it again for today's Gemara. When you have a crop that grows and you don't go ahead and separate everything, it's called tevel. It's called tevel. Anyone who eats from tevel is mechuyev misa. Even a kohen would be mechuyev misa. The first part of the separation is called truma gedolah, goes to the kohen. The second part is Maisa Rishon, and it goes to the Levi, and that's given every single year. From the Maisa Rishon, the Levi separates Trumas Maisa and gives it to the Kohen. In the first year, second year, fourth year, and fifth year of the Shemitah cycle, in addition, you separate Maisa Sheni, which is eaten in Yerushalayim. In the third year and the sixth year, in lieu of Maisa Sheni, you separate Maisa Ani. We have Machlokes over here. What's the halacha vis-a-vis Maisa Rishon? Says Levi, says Reb Meir, that Maisa Rishon only goes to a Levi, and not only does it only go to a Levi, it cannot be eaten by anyone else except the Levi. However, Rav Elazar ben Azariah is of the opinion could even be eaten by a Kohen. Okay, my time with the Reb Meir. What's the reason of Reb Meir? 4 lines down. What's the reason of Meir who makes this comparison between Maisa Rishon to Truma and says that Maisa Rishon can only be eaten by a Levi? So Amar Acha Bereid Rav Mishmei the Gemara. Okay, very interesting. Says Rav Acha in the name of Rabbi in the name of the Gemara. Now, if you look at Rashi, very seldom we have this in Shas, but here's what it means. Says Rashi, Mishmei the Gemara, Kach Kibol me Rabbi. So he was passed down from his Rebbe, Rabbi me Rabbi, and his Rebbe from his Rebbe, Ad Reb Meir, Sheshoma Mishmo, who heard it from him. In other words, he's not giving his own explanation of what he thinks Reb Meir holds. He's not giving his own explanation of what he thinks that Reb Meir holds. He's giving the Messiah of what Reb Meir said. And now we're going to get the Messiah, the reason why Reb Meir says that Maisa Rishon is to a Levi like Truma is to a Kohen. Okay? The pasuk says, Ki es Maser b'nei Yisrael asher yirimu l'Hashem, the Maisa b'nei Yisrael that you separate Truma nasati l'Alvim, right? Yirimu l'Hashem Truma nasati l'Alvim l'Nachla akein amati. So this is given to the Levium. So this is given to the Levium. Now it says Ki es Maisa b'nei Yisrael asher yirimu l'Hashem Truma. So we have 2 words in the pasuk. We have the word Maisa. In addition, we have the word Truma. Ma Truma asur l'Zarim. Just like Truma would be asa to a non-Kayin, af Maisa Rishon asa l'Zarim to a non-Levi. So too Maisa Rishon will be asa to a non-Levi. Now you'll ask, Ima Truma chayiv lav misa v'choymesh. Truma, if you eat it b'mezid and you're not a Kayin, you're a Zar, you'd be chayiv misa b'dei shemayim. V'choymesh, and if you eat it b'shoigeg, you're chayiv to go ahead pay the principal and an additional 1/5, which is really a quarter. Af Maisa, so to Maisa chayiv lav misa v'choymish. You might think that what Maisa Rishon, if a Zor would eat Maisa Rishon, you'd be chayiv misa. If you did it b'mezid and you have to eat a choymish if you do it b'shoigeg. Says the pasuk by Truma umesu boy ki yichalaluhu. It says umesu boy v'shamu is mashmarti v'lo yisul of chet umesu boy ki yichalaluhu umesu boy. And then the next pasuk said there's another pasuk that says a love. Okay, we'll see that in a second. Umesu boy ki chalu. It says v'yosaf chemishisay love. You should eat it chemish on it. Now, guys, boy is it is a miyat. Bo dafka by truma yochayev misa if you mechalel. V'loy b'maisa. A love chemishisay a love by b'shoigeg a love on truma you add the chemish v'loy al maisa. So In other words, we have the dimion between Truma and Maisa. Just like Truma is given to a Kayin and only a Kayin and eaten by a Kayin, so too Levi is, Maisa Rishon is only given to a Levi and eaten by a Levi. However, that's where the comparison ends, because we have a miyat by Truma to go ahead and limit the chiyuv of Misa B'dei Shemayim, because it says bo in it, and it says alav on it, meaning there you have a chiyuv of Misa, there you have a chiyuv of Yening Chaimish. Masha'in came by Levi, you would not, by the Ma'aserishin of a Levi, you would not. But again, limited to a Levi, no one can eat it except the Levi. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, a Kohen could also eat it. Okay, says the Gemara Vayt. The Rabbanon, right? What did the Rabbanon do with the comparison to Truma? After all, it says in the pasuk Truma and Maisa. Why did the Chachamim say that even a Zor can eat eat Truma's Maisa Rishon? Why does he do with the limit of? What does he do with the limit of Meya? Ma Truma Toiveles. Just like Truma is Tevel, Af Maisa Rishon Nami Toivel. In other words, just like if the pile, as I said, is not separated, is Tevel, so too you might think if you take off the Truma Gedolah, it's not Tevel. Kamash Malon, as long as you don't separate Maisa Rishon, it's Tevel. Guys, as long as you don't separate Maisa Rishon, it's Tevel. Right? It's still considered Tevel. Uchedetanya, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Yachal lo yehi chayev el al toivel shloi hurim imenu kolika. I might think you only chayev Misa if you didn't take it off at all. Hurim imenu Truma Gedolah, if you separate the Truma Gedolah. V'loi hurim imenu Maisa Rishon, or Maisa Rishon, v'loi Maisa Sheni, or you took off Maisa Rishon, but you didn't take off Maisa Sheni, v'afilu Maisa Ani, minayin, how do you know as it didn't tevel? Tamar loimer, leisucha lecho b'sharecha. You're not able to eat it b'sharecha. U'halon oimer, v'achle b'sharecha b'saveyu. Masha arecha omer lahalan Maisa Ani, av sharecha leis amakan Maisa Ani, v'amrachman leisuchal. So you can't go ahead, what? Leisucha lecho b'sharecha, you're not able to eat it b'sharecha. Why? So you see that it's, why can't you eat it? Because it's still tevel. It's still tevel, so you can't eat it, right? Now, what's the halacha over here? Are you chayv misa or not? Says Rashi. Min ma truma teveles shekol zman shlei hufishu chayv misa ala chilasai shel tevel the misa ksivbei af ma'aser rishon tevel v'af gav debidei leka misa. Even though, guys, if you eat ma'aser rishon separately, you wouldn't be chayev what misa. Chayev in misa al hatevel shlei hufish ma'aser rishon mimenu. This is a chiddush nifla. Guys, do you hear this? Guys, look at me. Look at this chiddush. If you would eat Maisa Rishon, you would not be chayiv misa. Even according to Rabbi Meir, that it has to be given to a Levi, you wouldn't be chayiv. Boy. However, if it's tevel, Chum say, just like as long as something you eat tevel, the untied mixture, is a chayiv misa. Even if you separated Truma Gedolah, you got the Truma out. But in there is Maisa Rishon, you will be Chayv Misa. Now, this is, it could be, Kain also. It could be the reason why you Chayv Misa is because in Maisa Rishon is Trumas Maisa. And Trumas Maisa carries with it what? A death penalty. Trumas Maisa carries with it a death penalty because it's, again, Misa B'dei Shemayim. The Rambam paskins that you would not be chayiv misa, you would be alive. So it seems to be machlokes rishonim over here.
What did you pass in on the Maisa Rishon in general?
Maisa Rishon, everyone holds it. That you can give it. Anyone can eat it. Anyone, anyone can eat it. Anyone can eat. Anyone, right? Just give it Levi. Anyone can eat it, right? Okay, says the Gemara Vayta. Now, if you have the lesucha lechel b'sharecha, why do you need the hekesh to truma, right? Says the Gemara, the ime hasam. So if I just learn from mat lesucha lechel b'sharecha that it's asa to eat, right? Have I mean lelav aval misa loy kemash v'lon the hekesh to truma that you chayiv misa. If you chayiv misa for what? For eating ma'aser rishon. You be chayiv misa for eating tevel. Lishnach rina. Maisa Rishon the Tavel mid Rabbi Yossi Nafka. Maisa Rishon that's Tevel you learn from Yossi, so why not from the Hekesh from Truma? Says my email here if you learn from just like Suchalech B'Sharecha I've been a lav I've been Saloi Kamash Balon. Now, so guys, let's go back to the Mishnah. How did we get into this? Let's go back to the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, skip the first case, we need the second case. We need the case of where the lines get wide. Bas Yisrael muresis leLevi, muberes meLevi, shemeres Yavam leLevi, v'chein bas Levi leYisrael, leSoichal Maisa. They shouldn't eat Maisa. Now, the last case is she's a bas Levi who's married to a Kohen, right? And therefore you have both Truma and Maisa. Okay, so now, the Gemara said, why in the world can't you eat the Maisa Rishon? Anyone can eat Maisa Rishon. So the Gemara said, the reason why you can't eat Maisa Rishon, because it's speaking, the Mishnah is going according to Reb Meir. What does Reb Meir hold? As we just saw, it's like Truma can only be eaten by what? By a Levi. So the same guidelines that we would have by eating Truma, we'd have by eating what? So just like a woman, if you're engaged, you can't eat Truma. If you're engaged, you can't eat Maisa. Just like if you're pregnant, your husband died, you're pregnant, you can't eat. So what then? You won't be able to eat. That's the same guidelines. Good. That's how we got into this. Good. Now, with that in mind, says the Gemara. B'mayuk Misa, a case of our Mishnah, the first case, Kiremeya, who says that Maisa Rishon can only eat by a Levi. Ema Seifa, Bas Levi Muresus the Koyen. So now she's two pronged. She's a Bas Levi that can eat what? Meiser. She's engaged to a Koyen that would normally let her eat Truma. Bas Koyen, who normally could eat Truma, the Levi was engaged to a Levi who could feed her what? Meiser. Loi Soichal, she can't eat Leib Truma of Leib Meiser. Now, Hacha Mai Zarus Ika. Guys, over here, why can't she eat Truma? Truma I can understand. Why can't she eat Meiser? She's a Bas Levi that's married to a Kohen. A Kohen is a Levi. So in other words, so if you're telling me the Mishnah is going according to Reb Meir, and that's why the first case when she's a Yisrael to a Levi can't eat, why over here where she's a Levi already, she's a Bas Levi, just because she's married to a Kohen, she shouldn't be able to eat? Some of Sheshes, Ma Eino Echeles Diktani. What does it mean when he says that she can't eat? Eino Nesenes V'Shus Litroim. She doesn't have reshus to go ahead and separate the Trumas Maisa. She doesn't have reshus to go ahead and separate. In other words, we're having charot the guys in the teretz. It's not according to Reb Meir anymore. The whole Mishnah is not according to Reb Meir. When it says she doesn't eat, it means she doesn't have reshus to tell the shliach to go ahead and take and separate Maisa and separate the Trumas Maisa. She doesn't have reshus to do that. That's what it means. So she could, in other words, we're having charata. The first case of the Mishnah is not Reb Meir either. And when it says eat, it doesn't mean, because anyone could eat Maisa Rishon, even a Zar. What it means, Eino Echeles, means you don't have a shus to separate from your husband's Maisa Rishon, the Trumas Maisa. That's what it means. You can't separate Trumas Maisa. So it doesn't say Ella over here, but it's having Charata for the whole teretz. Rashi says that. So guys, one more time. We wanted to say the Mishnah, again, the Mishnah is speaking. We said in the Havamina, she can't eat Maisa Rishon. Why couldn't she eat Maisa Rishon? Even anyone who's sitting here could eat Maisa Rishon. So the Mishnah is going according to who? Reb Meir, who says only a Levi can eat Maisa Rishon. And since she's only engaged and not married, meaning they're living together, therefore you can't eat what? Maisa Rishon. But we have a kash on that, because the Seifa, she's a Levi married to a Kohen, there's no Zoris there. So because of that, we're rejecting that it's going according to Reb Meir, and we're saying the following. When it says eating, it doesn't mean eating. What it means is you can't separate Trumas Maisa from her husband's crop. That's what that's a new pshat over here. Rav Sheshes one more time. My Eino Echeles Diktani, when it says you can't eat, Eino Nesenes V'Shus Litroim, to go ahead and separate from the Maisa Rishon the Trumas Maisa. Mechlal, you can infer, Dinesua Nesenes V'Shus. In other words, only Mureses and Arusa couldn't, but in a Suah, if the marriage was consummated, then she could separate it. Says Gemara in, yes. For Tanya, this is a Raya. It says, the Pasuk says, you should eat it in any place, you and your house. And it's a lashon of plural, right? Limit al nesua bas Yisrael shenoisenes v'shus litroim. that she has rishus to go ahead wide and separate the trumas ma'isa. Maybe just to eat the ma'isa. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Amit truma chamuro echeles. If she's married to a kohen, she eats it. Ma'isa hakal, which is more lenient than truma ain't din. If she's married, she eats it. Like kol shekain. Ella, what does it mean over here? Ella limit al nesua bas Yisrael sheno senes v'shus litroim, that she has rishus to go ahead and be tayrim. That's a teretz now. Okay, so when it says ocheles, it means to separate, and it's not according to Reb Meir. Good. We have another shot now. We're going to say the first part of the Mishnah is Reb Meir, and the second part of the Mishnah, which would be shver because there's no zaris over there, we're going to come up with a different teretz. Marbrei de Ravna Omar Loimar Shein Cholkin Lo Maisa Bebeis Hagronos. Meaning the following: when the Mishnah says that a Bas Levi married to Yisrael can eat, or a Levi married to a Yisrael Levi, a pregnant woman can eat. All this is going to Reb Meir. She can't eat my solution going to Reb Meir. You had a kasha in the last case. She was a Bas Levi married to a Kayin. She says she doesn't eat from Truma, she doesn't eat from Maisa. It means that you do not give to her on the threshing floor. If she would come, you wouldn't give her Maisa Rishon. We're going to see a Mishnah, we're going to see a Gemara in Daf Kuf, guys. What they would do is they would go to the threshing floor and they would collect. So there's two opinions over there why a woman should not go to the threshing floor. One, al siyichud. She may be in a situation she'll end up with yichud, alone with a man. Or secondly, maybe she'll get divorced. And they wouldn't know, let's say, for example, that when she was married to a kohen, she got, correct? And now that she's divorced from a kohen, maybe she doesn't, but really she should get. Okay, so we're going to see the Gemara now. It says, so here's the teretz. You won't go ahead and divide and give a Maisa Beis Hagronos. That's very good. Gerusha, let's keep the gear so we have. Gerusha Bas Levi Milay Achla. If she's a Bas Levi, Gerusha, she's a Bas Levi, she gets divorced, doesn't she go back to daddy? Gerusha Bas Kohen Milay Achla. Doesn't she go back to eating from daddy? But Truma. Ella, what do you have to say? Why don't you give to her? In other words, what are we worried about? We're worried about Bas Yisrael that's divorced from a Kohen, no longer will eat. So therefore, that's what it means over here. A Bas Levi who's married to a Kohen shows up at the threshing floor. You don't give a Truma, you don't give a Maisa, because why? Because they're at the Gerusha. That's your concern. Why did you dafka tell me the case where they were betrothed? Why don't you tell me where the marriage was consummated? It's because since we're guys who are at the Gerusha. Says I did the Tani Reisha Mureses, Tani Nami Seif Mureses. Since the first case in the Mishnah mentioned Mureses, we mentioned that in the Seif as well. Okay, so therefore the Mishnah, according to the first teretz and last teretz, the halacha is going according to Reb Meir. We don't paskin like that. That only a Levi could eat Truma, Maisa Rishon. According to the second teretz, it's not going according to Reb Meir. It's speaking about rishus, whether you should take off Trumas Maisa or not. And according to the last teretz, it's going that whether you're able to have rishus to go ahead to the threshing floor and receive it, you do not have rishus. Tana Rabbanan, Truma l'kayin, u'Maisa Rishon l'Levi, Dibur Rabbi Akiva, similar to Rabbi Meir. Truma goes to the Kayin, Maisa Rishon goes to the Levi. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer Amideis. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is of the opinion l'Kayin that Maisa Rishon goes to l'Kayin. Fred the Gemara, l'Kayin v'lei l'Levi. Maisa Rishon is going to go to the Kayin, not the Levi. It says Mefurish in the Torah goes to the Levi. It says Ema af l'Kayin. It even goes to the Kayin. It even goes to the Kayin, not only to the Levi, but it even go to the Kayin. My time of the Rabbi Akiva that it only goes to the Levi, guys. My time of the Rabbi Akiva that it only goes to the Levi. Dichsiv ve'alavim tidaber v'mata aleim ve'levim kamishtoy kroi. The pasuk is speaking about Levim. Again, the full pasuk. Elovim tidaber matalem kisichum es bnei Yisrael es ha'maisa shen asati lachem itam v'nachlaschem v'neimaisem mimenu chumas Hashem maisa min ha'maisa. They should take off maisa min ha'maisa, take off chumas maisa. So it's speaking about Levium. So therefore, maisa Levi goes to the maisa Rishon goes to the Levi. But Idach and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who says it even goes to the Kayin. Kid Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Dam Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Piesrim v'arba Mekaymis nikru kahan Levium. In 24 places we refer to the kahanim as Levium. And this is one of them. V'kahanim al-Levium b'nei Tzadik. Now we know Tzadik was a Kayin, and it says V'kahanim al-Levium b'nei Tzadik. So we're calling kahanim Levium. So we see it's synonymous. So even though the Torah says Levium by Meister Rishon, it's not limited to Levium. It can even extend to what? Kahanim. You can even extend to Kahanim. That's the reason for Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Akiva, what does he do with when do you apply the Sakanim al-Levium? Here you can't possibly say that it's speaking about Kahanim, because it says Ve'achaltem oisoi b'chol makayim. You eat the Meiser Rishon in any place. Mi sheyachal oichle b'chol makayim yatsa koyin sheyachal oichle mebeis hakfaris. In other words, there is a little glitch in your limud, because it says that eat it in any place. Any place is mashma, even a place that's tamei. A kohen is muzer in tumah. A Levi is not muzer in tumah. It must be being limited. When it says Levium, we must be limiting it to Levium and not extending it to Kahanim. Therefore, Rabbi Akiva says only to the Levi Meiser Rishon and not to the Kahanim. The Idach, and what does Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who says we extend it to the Kahanim? What does he do with the limit of B'chol Makayim? So Kol Heichid the boy, any place that the boy that's approved as opposed, right? The loy boy chayma, meaning you do not need a wall. Again, Meiser Rishon and Meiser Sheni are both synonymous. They're both separated, at least in the years they're separated. Meiser Sheni, you have to go to Yerushalayim. So as opposed to Meiser Sheni, which has to be living in Yerushalayim, B'chol Makayim means not in Yerushalayim. Any place that what? Even if it doesn't have a wall. Even if it doesn't have a wall, you will be able to eat it over there, even if it doesn't have a wall. So that's the limit of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So again, Machloikis, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Levi, and even Kahanim, Rabbi Akiva limited to what? To Levium, and based upon a pasuk and the drushes of the pasuk. Says the Gemara. And v'yachal b'tumah is a guf leilaki. Hahi ginsa, there was this garden that because it's true that you can eat a b'tumah, b'chol makam. You can. No, yes, it does. V'yachal b'tumah is a guf leilaki. You can eat b'tumah is a guf because since you can eat b'chol makam, even a place of tumah, so it's not a problem. It says, "Ginsa, there was this garden. He would take Meiser Rishon from it, and also Rabbi Akiva and Hadre lePiskol leBekavre. He turned around the door and opened up to a cemetery, thus not allowing Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who was a kohen, access to the Ginsa to take off Meiser Rishon. So Amar, he said, Akiva b'tar miloi. Akiva, you think you're stopping me from eating? You have your tamilo, you have your shepherd's bag. They used to, Rashi says, they used to wear a pouch, and they put bread in it. And I what? I'm alive, meaning I'm wealthy, which he was, and I can eat. Okay, but these Gemaras, when you have, seems like a little shtoch out, there's in the Sefer, Chafetz Chaim, he quotes at the end of the Sefer, the Tshuvas Chavetz Yair, Kuf Nun Beis. We had all the shtoch outs in the Torah, what they really mean. Chashav kinoyim v'shachav Rabbi Shmaitzer. Rabbi must have said this when he was sleeping. Since you're from Babel, you say truncated things. They have all the shtachim what they meant. This is there as well. Itmar they mat konsu. That's so annoying. Itmar if they mat konsu leviim b'maiser. Why konsu leviim b'maiser? My consul Levium b'maiser. Why do they consider the Levium not to eat maiser? Now, pligi bar Rabbi Yonasan b'Sabya, chadam ashlei olu b'mei Ezra. You think that everyone thinks that. Well, we had Nebuch. We went. The Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. We went to Bavel, and then we came back, and everyone returned to the land of Israel. That was not the case. Most of the people remained in Bavel, including the Levium. So, since the Levium remained in Bavel, they gave a knas that they lost their maiser rishon. So therefore, what's the reason the Kanas they took away the Ma'aser Rishon? So the Kahanim, when they're Tamek, they can eat Truma, they can go ahead and eat Ma'aser Rishon. Now, that would make sense that they did something wrong, they lost it. In order that the Kahanim should be supported, why should we take away food from the Levium? Everybody have to say, the reason is that it didn't come from Ezra. And therefore, they cancel by giving it to the Aniyim. And that the Kahanim b'nei Tumasan, so they give it to the Kahanim. Okay, very interesting thesis over here, fellas. It's mashma that there wasn't any Levium, right? It's mashma the Levium stayed in Babel, right? So if you look at the bottom thesis, Levi loymetzas sham, but Tanan b'kedushin, Asara yuchsim alami Babel, 10 yuchsim came out from Babel, ukechashav Levium, and they considered the Levium. Ukronamiksiv ayukumu Rashaya Avos Yehuda uBinyamin v'Levium. Describing in Ezra, those were Oilet, so Levium are mentioned. So how can you tell me that Levium are not counted? Alma Alu, and so Pirish Rashi, Basar Yuchsin, the Oisan Levium Sha'alu Imai, the ones that accompanied Ezra, Hayu Kutsutse Bahoinais. They had cut off their thumbs. Kisha'amalem Nebuchadnezzar Shiru Lonu Mishir Tzion Amdu v'Katzu v'Naseyem v'Amru Eich Nashir Esher Tzion. So they cut off their thumbs. They won't be able to play music. So therefore the Taina was in Levium. They didn't come back to play the music. So Levium, it says, came up. Those were Levium, but they were Bali Mumim vis-a-vis the halacha of what? Of fascinating places. Okay. Okay, so now Bishleim Lamadiyama Konsu by the parentheses. Let's do the parentheses. Bishleima Lamadiyama Konsu Laniyim Mishum Hachi Ahajir Rabbi Kiva Lepiscal the Beikavre. Since he was they canceled and they gave it to the Laniyim. He wasn't a nani. Rabbi Elazar ben Azai, he was rich. Lamadiyam Lekahanim Amaya Hajir Lepiscal the Beikavre. Why did he stop him? Says in Hachi Kamalei. Either Kaasas Bitaris Kanasa Islacha. Becoming Gas Taris Kanas there is to you. Because Asim Bitaris Chaluka that you get a piece of the action, then less the chok. Because I hold the Raisa it only goes to the Levi, not to the Kahanim. How do you know the people did not come up Me'ezra? The Chsiv, the pasuk says, "Ve'ekbetzem el anor haba el ava." I gathered them to the Nor Haba, named the river Ava. V'nachen l'sham yamim shleisha. I led them there for 3 days. V'avina ba'am, and I checked them out. U'kahanim b'nei Levim le'matzah shama. And the Kahanim b'nei Levim I did not find. I did not find these yuchsin that came up. Initially, they positioned Shaitrim was a position of prominence, initially only from the Levium. But Achshav, they didn't come back. The pasuk says, the Shaitrim harabim b'roshechem. The Shaitrim of the Rabbim is Mashli Yisrael, will be at their heads. I will stop over here. Have a good evening, everybody.